They thought humans would fall quickly. The battle was over in minutes. Commander Lisa Chen stood at the observation window of Defense Station Perseus, watching the stars disappear one by one. Each vanishing point of light marked the arrival of another Krillian warship dropping out of faster-than-light travel. She had counted 200 vessels before she stopped. There was no point in continuing. The numbers only confirmed what she already knew. New Perth was facing an enemy fleet that could crush them without breaking stride. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies," Lieutenant Marcus Webb said from the communications station. His voice carried the tremor of a man trying very hard to sound calm. "It's from the Krillian flagship." They were miners, engineers, colonial administrators, and volunteers who had signed up for what they thought would be a quiet posting on the edge of human space. Now they faced the most powerful military force in this sector of the galaxy. "Put it through," Lisa said. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the face of War Master Thex. The Krillian commander looked like something from Earth's ancient myths. Scaled skin the color of burnt copper, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his elongated head, and a mouth filled with rows of crystalline teeth that reflected the light of his command bridge. He wore armor decorated with symbols that Lisa's translation software identified as conquest markers. 17 distinct emblems, 17 species that had fallen before the Krillian advance. "Human colony New Perth," Thex said, his voice translated into flat, emotionless English by the communication system. "I am War Master Thex of the Krillian Armada. You stand before 300 warships of the Krillian Empire. Your resistance is futile. Your technology is inferior. Your defenses are laughable." They had brought overwhelming force to crush what they clearly saw as an insignificant target. "You have 1 rotation of your planet to surrender," Thex continued. 24 of your hours. Evacuate your orbital station. Ground all spacecraft. Prepare to receive occupation forces. If you comply, your people will be integrated into the Krillian Empire as a servant class. You will live. If you resist, we will demonstrate why 17 civilizations chose submission over destruction. It was a display of power meant to break the will of any defender before the first shot was fired. "I have personally studied your species," Thex said, and something that might have been amusement crossed his alien features. "Your military doctrine is simple and predictable. Your physical capabilities are unremarkable. You possess no natural weapons, no extraordinary senses, no evolutionary advantages. You are soft creatures from a soft world who have spread too far into a galaxy that does not welcome weakness." She could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else. A stubborn refusal to simply give up that she recognized as fundamentally human. "In our conquest of the Vexari," Thex continued, "their crystal cities held for 3 days before they surrendered. The molten resistance lasted 5 days despite their superior technology. The Quentari, with their hive-mind coordination, managed 7 days. Your colony has 1 orbital defense station that predates your grandfather's birth, and 5 frigates that were obsolete before they left your homeworld. When we begin our assault, the battle will be over in minutes. You cannot win. You can only choose how many of your people die before you accept the inevitable." The Krillian fleet hung in space like a swarm of predatory insects, blocking out the stars. She thought about Thex's words, about his confidence, about the 17 species that had surrendered rather than face destruction. She thought about the intelligence reports that described the Krillian military doctrine: overwhelming force, rapid strikes, psychological warfare designed to break enemy morale before physical combat began. Then she thought about something her grandfather had told her when she was young, sitting on his porch on Earth and listening to stories about humanity's long history. He had been a soldier once, had fought in the Martian independence conflicts before she was born. "Lisa," he had said, "the thing about humans is that we don't fight fair when our survival is on the line. We never have. When a stronger enemy comes, we don't meet them strength against strength. We look for the angle they don't expect. We turn their advantages into weaknesses. We make them fight on our terms, not theirs. Marcus, get me a channel to all our ships and the colony surface," she said. "Channel open, Commander." "You know what we're facing." She paused, meeting the eyes of each crew member on the command deck. War Master Thex is correct about several things. Our technology is older than theirs. Our numbers are insignificant compared to their fleet. By every conventional military calculation, we cannot win. He has analyzed our standard tactics. He has prepared countermeasures for every conventional strategy we might employ. A small smile crossed her face. But there is nothing conventional about what we're going to do. What do you mean? That's why those species lost. She walked to the tactical display and began entering commands. We're not going to fight them the way they expect. We're going to turn this entire system into a weapon they've never encountered before. Cargo haulers. And most importantly, we have something the Krillians don't expect. Human creativity and a complete willingness to break every rule in the military handbook. She brought up a schematic of the system on the main screen, her fingers flying over the controls as she began to outline. Her plan: we have 24 hours, she said. Not to prepare a defense, to set a trap. Thex said. Lieutenant Marcus Webb stared at the evacuation order on his screen, then looked up at Commander Chen with confusion written across his face. You want us to abandon Defense Station Perseus? Completely. Transfer all personnel to the surface or to the frigates. If we abandon it, the Krillians will. Rig every system on this station for remote operation. Power, life support, maneuvering thrusters, weapons, everything. She turned to the rest of her command crew who had gathered around the central display. Let me be clear about something. The Krillians have studied human military tactics. They know how we normally fight. They've prepared countermeasures for standard defensive formations, conventional weapons deployment, and predictable strategic responses. So we're going to do something they haven't prepared for. We're going to fight like desperate humans instead of proper soldiers. Commander, are you saying what I think you're saying? How many mining drones do we have operational in the asteroid belt? Each one is about the size of a small shuttle. They're slow and not particularly maneuverable. Marcus, how long would it take to reprogram those drones? I want those drones programmed to approach the Krillian fleet in waves. They don't need to destroy ships. They just need to attach themselves to Krillian hulls and overload their shield systems through sheer numbers. Their shields are designed to deflect high-energy weapons fire, not to resist thousands of objects physically clamping onto their hulls. What about the mining charges we use for asteroid processing? They're powerful, but they're not military-grade explosives. Commander, you're talking about turning civilian vessels into bombs. But if we rig them for remote operation and send them on collision courses with their capital ships? Exactly, Lisa said. We have 8 cargo haulers in system. Rodriguez, I want 6 of them loaded with mining charges and rigged for remote operation. Autopilot systems only, no crew. We're going to fill them with debris, scrap metal, ore containers, anything with mass. Then we'll position them along specific vectors I'm calculating now. Her crew listened with growing astonishment as she transformed every civilian asset in the new Perth system into a component of an elaborate trap. The mining drones would serve as the first wave, designed to scatter the Krillian formation and drain their shield capacities. The cargo haulers loaded with mining charges would follow, targeting the largest capital ships while the Krillians were distracted. The haulers filled with debris would create obstacles at critical points, forcing the enemy fleet to maneuver in predictable patterns. Commander, Webb said hesitantly, the Krillians are monitoring all our communications. They're going to intercept these orders. They'll know what we're planning. I want them to see us evacuating the orbital station. I want them to see us dispersing our frigates to seemingly random positions far from the colony. I want them to think we're retreating in panic. And while they're laughing at our apparent cowardice, we'll be setting the trap. Lisa pulled up a star chart showing the positions she had calculated for each frigate. Our ships will look randomly scattered, but I've positioned each one at a specific point that gives us firing angles the Krillians won't anticipate. When the battle starts, we won't be where they expect us to be, and we won't be shooting at what they think we're aiming for. The crew of Defense Station Perseus evacuated to the surface, leaving behind a ghost station operated entirely by remote systems. Rodriguez and his engineering teams worked around the clock, reprogramming mining drones and rigging cargo vessels with explosive payloads. The programming staff divided into teams, each working on different aspects of the automated systems that would control their improvised weapons. Lisa herself spent most of the time at the tactical computer, running simulation after simulation. She was calculating trajectories, timing sequences, and probability curves. She knew that conventional military wisdom said her plan had almost no chance of success. But conventional military wisdom also said that a colony with 70 defenders couldn't stand against 300 warships. 16 hours into their preparations, Lisa received an intercepted transmission between Krillian vessels. The translation software converted it to text on her screen. "The humans are evacuating their orbital station," one Krillian captain reported. "Their frigates are dispersing. It appears they are attempting to flee the system." Just as our intelligence predicted, they lack the courage to stand and fight. Continue monitoring. If they attempt to escape, destroy their vessels as a lesson to other colonies. The Krillians were seeing exactly what she wanted them to see: a panicked colony in retreat, abandoning defensive positions and scattering their limited forces. They had studied human military doctrine, so they knew humans typically fortified positions when defending colonies. The apparent evacuation and dispersal looked like complete strategic collapse. What the Krillians didn't understand was that human military doctrine was just a starting point. Throughout Earth's history, humans had survived by adapting, by improvising, by finding creative solutions to impossible problems. They had hunted prey stronger and faster than themselves. They had survived ice ages and plagues. They had turned every disadvantage into an unexpected advantage. With 8 hours remaining before the Krillian deadline, Lieutenant Park approached Lisa with a question that had been troubling the crew. "Commander, what if this doesn't work? What if the Krillians aren't fooled by our preparations? The Krillians think they know how this battle will end, because they've fought it 17 times before. They expect us to follow the pattern, fortify, fight conventionally, and surrender when we realize we can't win." She gestured at the tactical display showing their dispersed forces and improvised weapons. "But we're not following their pattern. We're writing a new one. When someone tells us something is impossible, we tend to take it as a challenge. In less than 8 hours, we're going to teach the Krillian Empire why the countdown reached 0 at exactly 600 hours New Perth time." Commander Lisa Chen sat in the command center on the planet's surface, surrounded by screens displaying data from dozens of remote systems scattered throughout the sector. The evacuated defense station Perseus floated empty in orbit above them, a ghost ship awaiting its final purpose. "Commander, the Krillian fleet is moving into attack formation," Lieutenant Webb reported, his voice tense. "They're arranging themselves in a standard assault pattern: capital ships in the center, cruisers on the flanks, support vessels in reserve." The Krillians were so confident in their overwhelming advantage that they weren't even bothering with creative tactics. They were simply going to roll over New Perth with raw firepower. "War Master Thex is broadcasting again," Webb added. "Let's hear it," Lisa said. The Krillian commander's face appeared on screen, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Human colony New Perth, your deadline has expired. You have chosen resistance over wisdom. Your orbital station remains occupied. Your frigates have not grounded. You have sealed your fate. Then we will eliminate your scattered frigates one by one. Your colony will watch from the surface as your defenses crumble. This battle will last exactly as long as it takes our weapons to lock onto your antiquated technology. Minutes, perhaps less." Lisa took a deep breath and looked at her crew, the miners, engineers, and colonists who had spent the last 24 hours turning their home into a trap. "All right, everyone," she said calmly. "Let's show them what humans do with minutes." But this was no enemy strike. Lisa had triggered the explosion herself, detonating carefully placed charges throughout the station's structure. The massive orbital platform fragmented into thousands of pieces of debris, each piece following a trajectory that Lisa's team had calculated down to the centimeter. "What?" War Master Thex's voice came through on the intercepted Krillian command channel. The humans destroyed their own station. Massive chunks of metal and composite material tumbled directly into the Krillian fleet's advance path. "Evasive maneuvers," Thex shouted to his fleet. The Krillian formation, which had been moving forward in perfect coordination, suddenly broke apart as individual ships maneuvered to avoid the incoming debris. Some ships went high, others low, still others veered to port or starboard. The beautiful symmetry of their attack pattern dissolved into chaos. "Now," Lisa said quietly, pressing the second sequence. From 5 different positions around the new Perth system, the human frigates that the Krillians had dismissed as fleeing suddenly sprang into action. But they didn't fire their weapons. Instead, each frigate released a cloud of small objects that had been stored in their cargo bays. 4,000 mining drones activated simultaneously, their simple programming directing them toward the Krillian fleet in coordinated swarms. The drones weren't fast and they weren't particularly maneuverable, but there were thousands of them, and they moved with single-minded purpose. "Unknown objects approaching from multiple vectors," a Krillian tactical officer reported. "Destroy them," Thex commanded. The Krillian ships opened fire, their weapon systems tracking and eliminating mining drones by the dozens. Brilliant energy beams and explosive projectiles filled space with deadly light. But for every drone destroyed, 10 more continued forward. The Krillians had optimized their weapons for fighting other warships, not for dealing with swarms of small, expendable targets. Lisa watched the tactical display with intense focus. "Timing is everything now," she murmured. "Web status on the cargo haulers." The drones attached themselves to Krillian hulls like mechanical parasites, their drilling equipment, meant for boring into asteroids, now clamping onto enemy vessels. The Krillian shields flickered and strained under the unexpected assault, trying to repel physical objects that were already past the energy barriers. 2 minutes had passed since the battle began. "Multiple ships reporting shield failures," the Krillian tactical officer reported in a panicked voice. "The objects are attaching to our hulls. We can't shake them loose." "Destroy them before they—" The Krillians had been monitoring these civilian vessels and had dismissed them as non-threats, slow, unarmed transports fleeing the battle zone. Now those slow, unarmed transports accelerated toward the largest Krillian capital ships, their autopilot systems locked onto collision courses. "Incoming vessels," a Krillian sensor operator shouted. Multiple civilian craft on intercept trajectories. Warships were dangerous. Civilian vessels were irrelevant. 6 of the cargo haulers were loaded with mining charges, 200 powerful explosives designed to crack asteroids. The other 2 haulers were filled with debris and positioned along vectors that would force the Krillian fleet to maneuver into even worse positions. The first cargo hauler reached a Krillian dreadnought, its shields already weakened by dozens of mining drones attached to its hull. The hauler impacted the massive warship's flank, and the mining charges detonated in a cascading explosion that tore through already compromised defensive systems. The dreadnought shuddered, massive rents opening in its armored hull as atmosphere vented into space. Emergency systems activated, trying to seal the breaches, but the damage was catastrophic. "Dreadnought Conquest is heavily damaged," came the report 3 minutes into the battle. The second cargo hauler struck another capital ship, then the third. The Krillian formation, already broken by the debris from Defense Station Perseus and harassed by swarms of mining drones, now found itself under assault from exploding civilian vessels that their tactical doctrine had taught them to ignore. "Return fire," Thex screamed. "Destroy those haulers." Their weapon systems, designed for precision strikes against military targets, struggled with the chaotic, multi-layered assault. The human frigates, meanwhile, had not fired a single shot from their main weapons. They had released their drone payloads and then immediately repositioned, moving to new coordinates that kept them out of the Krillians' firing solutions. Every time a Krillian ship got a lock on a human frigate, that frigate had already moved, protected by the clouds of drones and debris that filled the battle space. Lisa had turned the entire battlefield into a 3-dimensional maze where the Krillians' superior numbers and firepower couldn't be effectively brought to bear. A 4th cargo hauler reached its target, one of the largest Krillian command cruisers. The explosion sent shockwaves through the enemy formation. The cruiser didn't explode, but its main engines went offline, leaving it drifting and vulnerable. 3 minutes and 40 seconds. "War Master," the Krillian tactical officer's voice was shaking now, "we have 17 ships destroyed or disabled. Shield systems are failing across the fleet. We cannot maintain formation." and we still haven't successfully targeted any crewed human vessels. Instead, they were fighting a battle where none of their advantages mattered, where their enemies were everywhere and nowhere, where civilian mining equipment was proving more effective than military-grade weapons. "Commander," Lieutenant Park said, her voice filled with awe, "I'm reading confusion across their command channels. They're asking for orders, but Thex isn't responding coherently." War Master Thex had conquered 17 species using the same playbook: overwhelming force, conventional tactics, predictable military responses. He had studied human military doctrine and prepared countermeasures for every standard strategy. What he had never prepared for was humans who refused to fight like proper soldiers, who turned mining equipment into weapons, who sacrificed their own installations to create tactical advantages, who made the entire battlefield unpredictable. The fifth cargo hauler detonated against a Krillian cruiser. The sixth found its mark on a weapons platform. 4 minutes had passed since the battle began, and then something happened that Lisa had hoped for but hadn't quite dared to expect. "Commander," Webb shouted. "The Krillian fleet, they're breaking formation, they're retreating." Ships that were still functional fired their engines and accelerated away from the planet, abandoning the damaged vessels that couldn't follow. War Master Thex's face appeared on screen one final time, his 4 eyes wide with something that looked very much like fear. "Retreat," he commanded his fleet. "Full retreat. These humans, they don't fight like retreat." 4 minutes and 17 seconds had elapsed since the start of the battle. Lisa sat back in her chair, her hands trembling slightly now that the adrenaline was beginning to fade. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers as colonists and crew members celebrated what seemed impossible. But Lisa wasn't celebrating yet. She was already calculating, already analyzing. "Status report," she said, cutting through the celebrations. "How many ships did we lose?" "We lost all 6 explosive cargo haulers as planned, and approximately 60% of the mining drones, but no human casualties. 17 of their ships were destroyed or disabled, less than 6% of their total force. By conventional military standards, the Krillians had taken minor losses, but they were running anyway, fleeing from a handful of humans and some repurposed mining equipment." "Lieutenant Park," Lisa said, "are we recording all of this? The galaxy needs to see what just happened here." It was about what 300 warships fleeing from 70 humans would mean for humanity's reputation across the galaxy. The Krillian flagship Dominator limped through space at half speed, its damaged engines leaving a trail of ionized particles that any pursuing force could easily follow. War Master Thex stood on his command bridge, staring at the tactical display with all 4 eyes wide in disbelief. Behind him, his officers worked in tense silence, avoiding their commander's gaze. "Explain to me," Thex said slowly, his voice dangerously quiet, "how 300 warships of the Krillian Armada retreated from a single human colony with 70 defenders." "War Master, our battle computers analyzed the engagement. The humans did not fight according to any known military doctrine. They sacrificed their own orbital station to create a debris field that disrupted our formation. They used civilian mining equipment as weapons. They converted cargo vessels into explosive projectiles. Every action violated standard tactical principles. And you are telling me we fled because the humans broke the rules. They are demanding a full report on the engagement." "Send them the battle recordings," Thex said bitterly. "Let them see for themselves." Within an hour of the Krillian retreat, the battle recordings had been transmitted to Earth Command and to every human colony within range. The responses were coming back now, and Lisa found herself unprepared for the intensity of the reaction. "Commander, we have incoming messages from Earth Command, Mars Colony, Europa Station, and 17 outer colonies," Lieutenant Webb reported, his voice slightly overwhelmed. "They all want details about the engagement. The Molten Federation is requesting a diplomatic meeting. Even the Vexari are sending messages, and they never communicate with anyone." "What are they saying?" "We wish to understand how. Do you realize what we actually accomplished? They hit mining drones, debris, and empty cargo haulers. They did not land a single hit on any crewed vessel. Meanwhile, we destroyed or disabled 17 of their ships using equipment that cost less than a single military frigate." The Krillians attacked us with overwhelming military force. We defended ourselves with improvisation and creativity. Every alien civilization in this sector is going to be analyzing this battle, and they're all going to reach the same conclusion. She had focused so intently on surviving the next few hours that she hadn't thought much about the longer-term implications. You think this changes how other species will view humanity? Some of them were more technologically advanced than us. Some had larger populations, better weapons, more resources. They all fell because they fought the battle the Krillians expected. Rodriguez gestured at the battle recordings playing on the screen. You refuse to fight the expected battle. You turn the rules upside down. That's going to terrify some species and intrigue others. The battle recordings had spread across interstellar communication networks with remarkable speed. Species that had never heard of New Perth were now analyzing every second of the 4-minute engagement. On the Quentari homeworld, military strategists gathered in their council chambers to review the human tactics. The Quentari possessed a hive mind that allowed for perfect coordination between their military units, a significant advantage in conventional warfare. Yet they had lasted only 7 days against the Krillian assault before surrendering. The humans converted civilian equipment into weapons, one strategist observed. They sacrificed their defensive installation to create tactical advantage. They positioned their forces in a pattern that appeared random, but was actually precisely calculated. Their losses were minimal compared to their total force. The humans made themselves completely unpredictable. The Moltons had lasted 5 days against the Krillians by employing superior technology, advanced shields, powerful weapons, sophisticated sensors. Yet they too had ultimately surrendered. The human technology was inferior to ours in every measurable way, a Molten admiral noted, reviewing the technical specifications. Their frigates are outdated. Their weapon systems are generations behind current standards. By all logical analysis, they should have been defeated in the first minute. They used the Krillians' own assumptions against them. Any species that can turn weakness into strength through creativity and adaptability is a species we want as allies, not enemies. The recording of New Perth's defense reached the planet's communication networks during prime viewing hours across multiple continents. Citizens who had barely been aware of the Krillian threat were suddenly watching a battle that lasted 4 minutes and changed everything. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo, the head of Earth's defense fleet, watched the recordings in her office on the Lunar Command Station. She had known Commander Chen's grandfather, had served with him during the Martian conflicts decades ago. She could see his influence in Lisa's tactics, the same willingness to abandon conventional thinking when faced with impossible odds. "Get me a secure channel to New Perth," she told her aide. When Lisa's face appeared on screen several minutes later, the young commander looked exhausted but alert. "Commander Chen," Admiral Okonkwo said, "I served with your grandfather. He would be proud of what you accomplished today." "Though I'm not sure accomplished is the right word. We survived through desperation and luck." Every human colony in this sector is now going to be seen differently by alien civilizations. Some will see us as potential allies. Others will see us as threats. Their military doctrine is being questioned by their own high command. Okonkwo paused. "You didn't just win a battle, Commander. You damaged the Krillians' reputation across this entire sector." "What happens now?" "We're also sending diplomatic teams to open communications with species that have expressed interest in talking with humanity. Their military reputation has been damaged. They have 2 choices: accept the humiliation and add humanity to their list of species too dangerous to conquer, or attempt to restore their reputation by attacking with even greater force. Which do you think they'll choose?" "I think," Okonkwo said slowly, "that depends on what their high command decides when they analyze your battle tactics. If they're smart, they'll realize that humans are fundamentally unpredictable, and that throwing more ships at us will just result in more unexpected defeats. If they're proud and stupid, they'll try again." Somewhere above, in the debris field that had once been Defense Station Perseus, pieces of their improvised victory still orbited the planet. Lieutenant Webb approached quietly. "Commander, we're still receiving messages from dozens of alien civilizations." "What should I tell them?" "Tell them," Lisa said, that humanity is interested in diplomatic relations with peaceful civilizations. Tell them we have no interest in conquest or aggression. But also tell them that if anyone threatens human colonies, they should expect the unexpected. In the days that followed, the 4-minute route became the most analyzed military engagement in recent galactic history. Military academies across multiple civilizations added it to their curricula as an example of unconventional warfare. Diplomatic channels buzzed with discussions about the implications of human tactical creativity. And throughout it all, one message became clear to every civilization in the sector. Humanity might be relatively new to interstellar civilization, might have older technology and smaller numbers, but they possessed something that sophisticated weapons and overwhelming force could not overcome: the ability to adapt, improvise, and turn any situation into an opportunity. The battle was over in minutes, but its consequences would reshape galactic politics for years to come. 3 weeks after the Battle of New Perth, War Master Thex stood before the Krillian High Council on the Empire's capital world. The chamber was massive, designed to make those who stood at its center feel small and insignificant. Thex felt that weight pressing down on him as 12 council members, the most powerful individuals in the Krillian Empire, stared at him with unblinking eyes. War Master Thex, High Counselor Zarn spoke, his voice echoing through the chamber. You commanded 300 warships against a single human colony. You possessed overwhelming military superiority, yet you ordered a retreat after 4 minutes of engagement. Explain yourself. They destroyed their own defensive installation to create tactical advantage. They weaponized civilian equipment. They positioned their forces in patterns that appeared random, but were actually precisely calculated traps. We fled from an enemy that made our tactical advantages meaningless, Thex corrected. Our battle computers could not predict their movements because they did not follow logical military patterns. Our superior firepower could not be brought to bear because they forced us to fight on their terms, not ours. He had spent 3 weeks analyzing the battle, trying to understand what had gone wrong. The 17 civilizations we conquered all fought conventional battles. They used their military forces in predictable ways. They fortified positions. They engaged in direct combat. They followed the rules of warfare that all civilized species understand. They used weapons we did not recognize as threats. Every assumption we made about how they would fight was wrong. I am suggesting that humans are unpredictable in ways that make conventional military superiority irrelevant. They are creative, adaptive, and willing to abandon all tactical conventions when survival is at stake. Fighting them is like fighting an enemy who constantly changes the rules of engagement. He had 2 choices: recommend another attack to restore the Empire's honor, or recommend something that would have been unthinkable 3 weeks ago. I recommend, he said slowly, that we add humanity to our list of civilizations to avoid. The cost of conquering them would far exceed any potential benefit. They will turn every system into a battlefield where our advantages mean nothing. They will fight with weapons we cannot predict and tactics we cannot counter. The Krillian Empire had never voluntarily avoided a conflict before. You are suggesting we show weakness, a counselor said. I am suggesting we show wisdom, Thex replied. We have conquered 17 civilizations because we chose targets we could defeat efficiently. The humans are not such a target. Every battle with them will be unpredictable, costly, and may end in humiliation regardless of our numerical superiority. You are dismissed. But the cost would be high, the outcome uncertain, and the methods the humans would employ unpredictable. Sometimes, he reflected, the greatest military wisdom was knowing which battles not to fight. On New Perth, life was slowly returning to normal, though normal had taken on a new meaning. The colony that had once been a quiet backwater on the edge of human space was now one of the most famous locations in the sector. Ships arrived daily, some carrying reinforcements from Earth, others carrying diplomats from alien civilizations. Commander Lisa Chen stood in the rebuilt command center, watching the traffic control screens with a mixture of pride and exhaustion. The temporary command center had been replaced with a proper military facility, complete with advanced sensors and modern communications equipment. Earth Command had sent enough resources to turn New Perth into a significant defensive position. Commander, we have another diplomatic delegation requesting landing clearance, Lieutenant Webb reported. This one is from the Vexari Collective. The Quentari delegation yesterday, and the Molten Trade representative the day before. Now they're all coming here to talk with us. We proved that the supposedly invincible Krillian Empire could be beaten by inferior technology and creative thinking. They want to understand how we think, how we approach problems, whether we might be useful allies or dangerous enemies. Commander, I've been analyzing the communications we've intercepted from various alien civilizations. There's a pattern emerging. The Moltens are training their forces in improvisation and adaptive tactics. Even civilizations that weren't involved in the battle are studying what we did. We've changed how species think about warfare itself. For centuries, galactic civilizations have fought battles according to established conventions, matching military force against military force, superior technology against inferior technology. We showed them that those conventions can be subverted by creativity and willingness to break the rules. Commander Chen, I've been listening to your discussion. Chief Rodriguez is correct about the broader implications. Earth Command has been receiving inquiries from dozens of civilizations about potential defensive alliances and technology sharing agreements. They're not offering us their advanced weapons or shields. They're asking us to teach them how to think unconventionally, how to adapt military equipment for unexpected purposes, how to fight battles where the enemy has overwhelming superiority. Exactly, Okonkwo confirmed. Because that's what the Battle of New Perth demonstrated, that human creativity and adaptability are weapons as powerful as any conventional military technology. Perhaps more powerful, because they can't be countered by simply building bigger guns or stronger shields. Construction crews were repairing damage from the battle and building new facilities to accommodate the increased military and diplomatic presence. The quiet mining colony had transformed into a significant hub of interstellar activity. Admiral, Lisa said thoughtfully, when I planned the defense of New Perth, I wasn't trying to change galactic military doctrine or establish humanity's reputation. I was just trying to keep my people alive, using whatever resources we had available. You were focused on survival, and humans have been surviving impossible situations for our entire history. We're descended from people who hunted animals bigger and stronger than themselves, who survived ice ages and plagues, who crossed oceans in primitive boats to explore unknown lands. When we're desperate, we become incredibly creative. Now we navigate the consequences of your 4-minute battle, Okonkwo said. Some species will want to be our allies because they respect our capabilities. Others will keep their distance because they fear what we might do. And yes, some might eventually challenge us to test whether New Perth was luck or genuine human capability. War Master Thex apparently recommended the latter option. If they're smart, they'll take his advice. Because now every human colony in this sector knows what you did at New Perth. They've studied your tactics. They're preparing their own unconventional defenses. If the Krillians attack another human colony expecting an easy victory, they're going to be very disappointed. They had been through an extraordinary experience, defending their colony against impossible odds and somehow emerging victorious. Now they faced a different challenge, managing the fame and attention that victory had brought. I want you all to understand something, Lisa told her crew. What we did here at New Perth has consequences that extend far beyond our colony. We've changed how humanity is perceived across this sector of the galaxy. Some people will call us heroes. Others will call us dangerous. Both assessments might be correct. We didn't win through superior strength or advanced technology. We won because we refused to accept defeat, because we were creative when we needed to be, and because we were willing to fight a battle that nobody expected. Those qualities, adaptability, creativity, determination, those are fundamentally human traits. They're what allowed our ancestors to survive and thrive on Earth, and they're what will allow humanity to succeed among the stars. If everyone learns to fight unconventionally, doesn't that eliminate our advantage? If the Quentari try to copy what we did at New Perth, they'll fail, because we won't expect them to copy us. We'll expect them to do something completely different. Creativity isn't about memorizing one set of clever tactics. It's about constantly adapting, constantly innovating, constantly finding new solutions to new problems. I'm saying humans have been improvising our way through impossible situations for thousands of years, Lisa replied. It's what we do best. The Battle of New Perth wasn't special because we used mining drones as weapons. It was special because we looked at an impossible situation and refused to accept the obvious outcome. That's the real human advantage, not any specific tactic, but the fundamental refusal to give up when logic says we should. A battle that lasted 4 minutes had altered the political landscape of an entire sector. A desperate defensive action had become a case study in military academies across multiple civilizations. A quiet mining colony had become a symbol of human determination and creativity. War Master Thex had been right about one thing: the battle was over in minutes. He had just been catastrophically wrong about how it would end. The Krillian Empire had thought humans would fall quickly. Instead, they learned that humans had a different definition of impossible, a different approach to warfare, and a dangerous tendency to turn every disadvantage into an unexpected advantage. It was a lesson the entire galaxy was now learning, one 4-minute battle at a time.